So can we talk about supporting our LGBTQIA youth and loved ones? And can you talk about your recent announcement?
Yeah.
And
So
what pronouns I should be using?
they, them. Thank you. And it's funny is like I'm gender fluid, so honestly, my feelings about pronouns actually kind of change sometimes from day to day. But because that changes, they, them is just always a safe bet because it's neutral and you're not making any assumptions, which is
I
good for
love they, them, because
yeah,
I've always used it anyway because it
yeah.
makes more sense.
Because you always have to assume you don't know. I don't know. That was just my thought pattern growing up. Them as a pronoun, and I use it whenever I can, but maybe there was a hint there before I knew it was going on. But yeah, I came out on social media this June in Pride Month, and it really wasn't how I wanted to do it. I've been writing a book about my life, and it's an autobiography. And actually, we were talking earlier about even when you're passionate about something, sometimes you need to put it away, right? And know when you need a break. And so I've taken about a year off from the book, and I'm about to start picking it up again. I think I'm ready, but it was just bringing up a lot of memories and trauma and things I had just really not dealt with. It's easy to do. No, we're just going to wall this off and not deal with this, and it was hard and it was very overwhelming for a while, but I was going to put it all in a book because I thought it would be the long version. People would be able to fully understand everything. And, I worry sometimes when you give shorthand, things can get taken out of context. So it's like I had this whole big idea, but, the book's nowhere near done at this point. And I'm still determined to get it out eventually. But in June, with all of the talk about autistic people not being able to understand their own gender and all of the other nonsense about LGBTQIA people that was happening online and the political climate, I just felt like I had to start saying something now. I couldn't wait because the book is like nowhere near being done. I can't wait for that to release. So I officially came out to the world as non-binary, specifically gender fluid, and I'm glad I did it, because I've been on that path to authenticity since I was diagnosed autistic 4 years ago, and taking off that mask, it's another layer to being able to feel more authentic as I go about the world.
And so what does that mean to you? I mean, like, how has this experience been for you?
Yeah. So for me, I was assigned female at birth, and that really is like what it feels like. It's an assignment that was given to me, and I had no say in it, like a job or something else. And I remember when I was probably 4 or 5, I was very, very distressed, and I would tell adults in my life that I thought I was a mistake and I wished I'd never been born, and I didn't feel like a girl, and I certainly didn't want to grow up and become a woman. And I always related more with little boys than little girls. I enjoyed activities little boys did. I struggled to be around other girls when I was younger, and when I was around other girls, I was definitely masking a lot heavier, especially when I was younger. And actually, even now, like working in all female spaces is hard for me sometimes because it really makes me highlight how much I don't feel and relate to that. And I, like, as I got older, things really only got worse when we get to puberty because then my body changed and I had, a very neutral look when you're young. And then all of a sudden I see myself in the mirror and I don't recognize what I see as me anymore. And, that's a hard thing even now is I don't think anyone is ever going to see me the way I see myself, the way I experience myself, this, how I, and, it's just nobody has the same experience of me that I think is me. I I've always felt like I'm this more masculine character trapped inside this small, curvy female body with this high-pitched voice. And, I grew up having more guy friends and being called one of the guys, and people mentioning that I thought like one of the guys. That was just like, oh, it's the ultimate compliment because it made me feel seen. I felt seen. I was like, oh, they get me. But they didn't really understand how much that meant to me, and eventually, after years of just living in this meat suit that people associate with that assignment I had been given, I just started going along with it. And
did you just call it a meat suit?
I called it a meat suit. It's a meat suit.
I'm writing that down. She called it a meat suit, and this is trademarked Neurodivergent Rebel. It's her meat suit.
I don't know if that's from me or if I picked that up somewhere. I don't know if that's one of mine, but it's just this.
I'm crediting you. If I ever do say it, I probably will never say it, but if I do, I'm crediting you with that.
But I mean, I went along with it, with those labels of women and girl, because that's what was expected of me, and it was easier, and I would comply because I didn't really think there were other options out there, and I conformed because I was also sure that nobody was going to understand what I was going through, not really because I related to the labels or I felt they fit me. I was a girl because, I was just not going to push back. If you say so, sure, I'm a girl. Okay, whatever.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So when you were younger and you said to your parents, I'm assuming, that you did not feel like a girl, how did that go down? What did they say?
So I'm going to say guardian, so we don't out who did what, not put anybody in trouble.
An adult, any adult.
There were different guardians in my life, and we'll say, one guardian made a joke that if I could kiss my elbow, I would be able to turn into a boy.
Oh, nice.
That was really terrible, because then I went to my room, closed my door, and tried to kiss my elbow for a half hour, and then cried on the floor by myself when I was unsuccessful at doing this. And
really supportive.
And they didn't realize how much harm that was going to do. Didn't realize at all. And then another guardian just told me I was a tom girl, and some girls are different, and that's okay. And I mean, that was a little bit more helpful, but it kind of just swept something under the rug and meant I didn't look much further and just accepted this thing that maybe wasn't necessarily accurate for me because that was easier.
So what would you have, like, if you could go back in time and had like this unicorn guardian, what would you have wanted that person to say to you, or to, like, how would you have wanted them to guide you?
Yeah. So, I mean, it would have been really beneficial to have someone who would really pay attention to what I was saying, even if they didn't necessarily understand or identify. But, back then, even though non-binary was already a thing, this was the time before we all had the internet. Non-binary people have been around since forever. People are like, oh, this new thing, non-binary. It's like, no, this isn't new. This is something that was culturally erased systematically by cultures in the name of religion. So non-binary people, we've always been here. But I didn't know it was an option because this has never been presented to me, and I didn't have the internet growing up, right? And I'm sure my parents didn't know this was another option either. And with the funny thing is, I even knew trans people growing up. I didn't know any trans men, but I knew trans women. I didn't know anyone that was a little bit more like me, but it just didn't occur to me that it could be me. And then I don't think they knew what to do better. So it's hard to say what I wish they would have done because it was a different time. But, looking about today, because we know more, pay attention. When people say they don't identify with the assignment they were given, don't dismiss people, especially with children, because kids know. I was 4 or 5 years old when I knew, and I remember being asked about what I wanted to be when I was growing up, and I realized I couldn't picture myself as an adult woman, and that was what had been requested of me, and I said I want to be a cat.
Makes sense.
because I just, I couldn't deal with it. But I knew that wasn't right for me. And so don't dismiss the young people, and then, respect people's gender identities, respect people's pronouns, be courteous. Don't say, oh, those are girl things, these are boy things. You can't do that because you're a boy. You can't do that because you're a girl. Girls aren't allowed to do this. Boys aren't allowed to do that. Like, stop making assumptions about what people of either gender should be doing, or what not either. There's more than, there's many genders. So just, we've got a lot of gendered assumptions we need to put down in general.
So what else can we do to like support our word for this? I don't know the words to use for this.
LGBTQIA youth or gender diverse youth, because
gender diverse, okay.
Yeah, like when we look at autism, I don't have the statistic in front of me for gender diverse autistic people, but we know there's a lot of them. But then also, like I did a poll on Twitter recently, and it was 75% of the 3,670 autistic people I asked, do you identify as LGBTQIA? 75% said yes, and 24-point-something% said no. So even though Twitter is scientific,
but it is a big pool. That's
LGBTQIA, gender, or their sexual orientation. And so, like with autism or being autistic or neurodivergent, this isn't something that's a choice. This is how they operate. This is fundamental. It's not something you can change in the person. We need to respect them for who they are, and not try to force them to be something else, not to tell them who they are is bad or flawed. It's a lot of the same issues we have with autistic youth, where we need parents to accept us and love us and not try to change us
and fix us.
Yes, even if you don't understand, please just meet me where I am and love me. That's little me talking to adults these days.
Where can we go to find information to support those people?
Well, a lot like when you're learning about autism, it's really good to learn from people who have that experience themselves, and read blogs by people who are gender diverse. Or, what I got addicted to during COVID, or early March, and then by June I was like, crap, I got to start talking, is TikTok.
Ooh.
Oh, that looks like a good one.
Say what? Sounds like you should ask a transgender person, but okay.
That sounds good.
Writing that down.